What's up, everybody? Jimmy Faluca reporting with my good friend, as always, Frank. Frank, how you been, buddy?
Yes, here again.
We're here again, and we are disgruntled, aren't we?
As always.
As we always are. I suppose, I hope our audience will excuse me tonight if I'm not as boisterous as usual. I'm kind of working through some stitches here. I tried to do something nice and make breakfast, and unfortunately, Frank, I almost made myself. I thought I was transforming into Hannibal Lecter for a second. Yeah, unfortunately, that happens only once every 20 years with me. It's been 20 years since I've had stitches. When's the last time you had stitches, Frank?
Oh, man, a long time ago. I fell on it was like a cliff, and I just fell flat on my face, and I split my forehead open.
I'll tell you one thing. Thank God that wonderful mind of yours wasn't damaged, because otherwise, who the hell would I bullshit on this show with? But let's get right into it, guys. We're 4 or 5 weeks away till WrestleMania, Frank.
What is it?
It's March 2nd. Last I checked. Actually, it's the 3rd. It's the 3rd, actually.
When's WrestleMania?
It's terrible because I don't even fucking know.
I think it's on the April 5th.
That right there should tell you what kind of shape this WrestleMania is in, that I don't know what the date is. I mean, Frank, you said it after the Rumble, and you, again, as usual, turn out to be right. Don't look forward to this WrestleMania because you're going to be disappointed, for the most part. The card really isn't shaking out to be anything special to me as a viewer. So let's go through the card before we give our personal opinions.
It's actually on the 29th, March 29th.
March 29? Alright. March 29. So that means, Jesus Christ, we got 26 days.
Yes.
Well, it'll be the first time in a few years that WrestleMania isn't at my house. I gotta find another place to watch it because I ain't subscribing to that bullshit. After the Rumble, I had to cancel my subscription, Frank. You know, after seeing those 4 eliminations in the Rumble of Ryback, Ambrose, Ziggler, and obviously Bryan, I just said to myself, they don't give a shit about me, so why should I give a shit about them?
Yeah, I actually got suckered into subscribing again.
No, it's all good, Frank. Listen, if you wanted it, that's fine. I don't bash anyone that has it. If you have it, that's great. Me, I can't put money into that company knowing how they're treating those 4 guys. But let's get through the WrestleMania card. Goldust versus what I'm saying it's going to be Cody Rhodes. I don't see him sticking with the Stardust thing that much longer. I actually predict that they will have another match on Raw, and Goldust is going to turn around and say, listen, you can't beat me as Stardust. You have to beat me as Cody Rhodes. And that's going to be what kind of coaxes Cody back into being himself. And hopefully it will shape up into Cody Rhodes actually doing something. Actually, you know what? Let's change the format a little bit. We'll go match by match and give our personal opinion. Personally, I'm looking forward to this particular match because I think that those two on a WrestleMania level could do something with this feud. I think that the match should have happened a long time ago, but Goldust has proven that he only gets better with age. The guy's in phenomenal condition. He does good in-ring work for a guy his age, and retirement is looming for him. So he will put his brother over, in my estimation. I think he will put his brother over and put him over strong. And Goldust, to me, should be in the Hall of Fame within the next year or two. I think he's Hall of Fame worthy. What do you have to say about this match, Frank?
Oh, definitely. He'll get in. But I don't know. Last week when they had that match on Raw, was it on Raw, the last pay-per-view? I think
the pay-per-view match did not flow. I managed to have a friend of mine allow me to use his cell phone, so I got to watch, a couple of matches, 2 or 3 days after the pay-per-view, even though I knew the results. I heard that the match was a stinker, and when I watched it on my friend's phone, it turned out to be so. I mean, the match was horrible. It was bad timing.
Everything about it, just the promo with Dusty,
and I thought both promos with Dusty were good. They served I thought that they served their purpose. I think the reason you're feeling that way is because the match was so bad.
I don't know.
I enjoy the uses of the Dream.
No, he's cool, but I don't know. It just to me it was painful to to watch.
The match was painful to watch. I'll give you that.
Just the whole angle. I didn't get don't hurt him.
Well, it kind of makes sense, because if I had a brother and I was getting ready to go to a showdown with him, my dad would probably be trying to talk me down, saying, listen, especially if he knew I was the stronger of the two, because I think Dusty's kind of making, giving subtleties that Dustin's the more experienced, the more stronger of the two. It's the older brother type deal. And it actually made sense. To me, it actually made sense. Think about that. A WWE angle made sense to me. I'm throwing them a bone here. The next match I could think of that's happening is Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins. There's no doubt that match is happening. Orton came back with the simple design to destroy Seth Rollins for taking him out 4 months ago. I think this could be the match that steals the show. And I'm looking forward to seeing Orton put this kid over, because Rollins needs a WrestleMania one-on-one win.
Yeah, that'll probably be a really good match. But aren't they doing it where right now Orton's pretending to be his friend?
Yeah, they are. It's the slow burn. There's no way Orton goes into WrestleMania without fighting Seth Rollins. I do not see that. I don't see them being in a tag or in any other kind of other fuckery. They will face each other in a one-on-one match, and Seth Rollins will go over. What about you? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but yeah, I think that'll be a really good match. That might steal.
Either way, no matter who wins, because I think Orton could win and Rollins could cash in at the end and win the belt. That would make Orton the number one contender, especially if he goes over on Rollins, because he could turn around and say, "Hey, listen, you may be the champ, but I beat you at WrestleMania. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm the number one contender, and I deserve the rematch for the belt that I never truly got beat for." So that another WWE storyline that makes sense to me. Wow. Too bad that's the end of all the things making sense for me, because the rest of the WrestleMania card to me don't make fucking shit for shine any sense. Triple H versus Sting. I understand that they set it up at Survivor Series. I have no desire to see Sting fight anyone that is not named The Undertaker. Sting is going over. There's no way Triple H is going to beat him. What do you say to that?
Oh, I agree. Sting has to win his first match.
And then of course you have, as we learned at Fastlane, The Undertaker will be facing Bray Wyatt. I'm not going to write off Mark Calloway. I think that he can have a great match with Bray Wyatt. I don't think that's the issue that most Undertaker fans like myself have. It's a match I would have liked to have seen with the streak intact, because I think Bray Wyatt is way more deserving than Brock Lesnar to say, I'm the one that ended the streak, because Bray Wyatt's going to be around for the next couple of years. Bray Wyatt's he is a lifelong WWE talent. He ain't going nowhere. He's Mike Rotundo's son, for Christ's sakes. It's no different than Randy Orton being Bob Orton's son. They are career WWE guys. And the reason that I continue to say what I said about Lesnar last year, that he was not worthy, look where he's going now. He showed his true colors. The guy only cares about money. He doesn't give a shit about you. Doesn't give a shit about me. Doesn't give a shit about The Undertaker. Because if I'm The Undertaker, and I just gave you the biggest win of your career, that will go down as probably the greatest win of all time, because it's the one that ended The Undertaker's undefeated streak, and you're picking up and leaving, not even a whole calendar year later, fuck you, man.
I think you should blame Vince, because it's all Vince's...
Yeah, but that should have also given Brock incentive to stay from where I'm sitting. If I'm not a wrestler, I have never been an actual professional wrestler. I did backyard wrestling when I was younger because I wanted to live my dream. I was selfish. Shoot me. If The Undertaker ever put me over at WrestleMania, ain't no fucking way I'm leaving WWE. Especially if I'm making the kind of money Brock Lesnar's making. That motherfucker is making more money than 10 WWE superstars combined. And he's bitching and moaning about pay. Are you kidding me? Come on now. There's no other reason Lesnar would leave other than money. Because that's all that matters to him.
Could be dates. Could be other.
Honestly, I don't think Brock would not show up if they would be willing to pay him. But the problem is Brock is not willing to take a pay cut to show up more than once a month or every 2 months.
The guy is valuable. He knows his value.
I understand the guy's valuable, but you are the one that ended the Undertaker's streak. Have some respect for the man who has ultimate respect for the business and do what he would do. That's why to me the Undertaker's the greatest of all time, because he's done something that no one else has ever done.
Yeah,
Not Hogan, not Austin, not Rock, not Shawn Michaels, not Brett, not Orton, not anybody. The Undertaker always put the business before himself. He never once put himself in front of the business. That is why, to me, the Undertaker's the greatest. But now I'm getting off track. To me, Bray Wyatt should beat him. Yes, you heard me right. Bray Wyatt should beat the Undertaker. Because Bray Wyatt needs the win. The Undertaker does not. The Undertaker losing this match would not hurt his legacy. It will not kill his career dead. Because he will have the... If the incentive is Sting beats Triple H, Bray Wyatt beats The Undertaker. The Undertaker now recognizes he is a shell of his former self and wants to retire. Sting shows up. Not so fast, Undertaker. If that's the incentive, I'm all for it.
Well, what you want is, at least in that match, you want Bray Wyatt to become a superstar.
Absolutely. Bray Wyatt, to me, is the most all-around talented guy the WWE has right now. I will go that far to say that. He's the best.
He's certainly the most interesting and character.
Absolutely. If you want to talk character, in-ring ability, and mic skills, who has it more than Bray Wyatt?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Where he gets the urn or something.
See, honestly, I think Bray should do a promo in a graveyard just to fuck with the Undertaker a little bit. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I thought the promo tonight with the casket was great. I just feel the Undertaker needs to at least respond before WrestleMania.
He will.
This can't just be, especially if the Undertaker's going to go over and Bray Wyatt's doing all this fucking work. No, Bray Wyatt should go over.
I agree.
And you're hearing this from an Undertaker fan who was pissed that he lost last year at WrestleMania. Now the streak's dead. Don't matter if the Undertaker wins or loses. Now, in the Sting match, Undertaker should win. I love Sting. I met the man. I love him. I told him to his face that I love him, and he didn't mind. Matter of fact, he said, I love you too. But I'm not kidding. Steve was such a wonderful guy to meet. He was the nicest wrestler I ever met next to Owen Hart and Daniel Bryan. Wonderful guys. CM Punk was a prick. A complete prick. A masterful prick. I wanted to kick him in his face. But Undertaker should beat Sting. Especially if he's going to lose to Bray Wyatt and Triple H is going to job to Sting. The Undertaker should win the dream match. And have them both walk away together. But we'll get into that later in the show. John Cena versus Rusev. Ugh. I was so hoping that they would go with Ryback versus Rusev because it could have made a new star. Ryback could have got his first championship and would have been the one to end the streak of Rusev. But they're going to feed him to Cena. And it's a double-edged sword from where I'm sitting. On one hand, you're keeping Cena away from the world title, and he's the United States champion. And there ain't no way Cena's going to be booked as a regular mid-card champion as the last few years. He will win on free television. He will make that belt mean something. But on the other hand, that's another young, promising career that's hitting the John Cena ceiling. So I really don't know how to feel about this. How about you, Frank?
Well, they did make Rusev beat him, at the last pay-per-view. Technically, Cena submitted, so that's...
Well, because a pass-out is still considered a submission. I understand that, and yeah.
But he never gave up.
Yeah, they'll always say that. This guy could get hit. This guy could get hit by a Mack truck, and he'll kick out at 2. I'm convinced.
Cena will never give up.
No, he never will, unfortunately for all of us. And then you have... The one of the two matches I am ultimately disgusted with, and you're going to have to let me go off on this one, Frank. The ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. The Intercontinental Championship that hasn't meant shit in the last few years. I am so sick and fucking tired of people making excuses why this is a good idea. In this Intercontinental ladder match that they're calling it, you have Wade Barrett, R-Truth, Luke Harper, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, and Daniel Bryan. Dean Ambrose, a few months ago, was one of the hottest guys they had. Dolph Ziggler, a couple months ago, got the biggest win of his career. And whether anybody wants to admit it or not, I really don't give a flying shit. Daniel Bryan is the most over WWE superstar in existence. And he's being relegated to an Intercontinental title match that he will lose. And the belt is not going to change. It is this whole menagerie that all of a sudden the Intercontinental Championship is going to start to mean something again. How many times did we believe the Intercontinental title was going to start to mean something all of a sudden? And it never did. That's not going to change. And you stick the most over guy. I don't give a shit if you think it's because of the chant. I don't give a shit if you think it's because the fans just love him. Doesn't matter. Daniel Bryan's the most over guy in the company, and you're sticking him in a mid-card bullshit match that he does not belong in.
And he's the best worker.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad. Sometimes, Frank, you guys need to project. And there's a lot of other guys out there that agree with me. You guys need to freaking put that out there on the page, because everybody thinks that I'm the only one that thinks Daniel Bryan's getting fucked with. The guy has the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Seattle Seahawks, the New York Islanders, 3 mainstream sports teams. You know, a real sport, not this bullshit. Real sports teams, all doing his thing when they score, when they win. Metallica has come out about how much they love this guy. This guy was in the Pittsburgh Pirates freaking parade, for Christ's sakes. The freaking Seattle Seahawks let Daniel Bryan take over their Twitter with their millions of freaking followers. Every time the Islanders are at home, trust me, I would know, I'm an Islanders fan, just like my father is. Anytime the Islanders are home and they score, the entire fucking Coliseum is chanting yes. And I got news for you. If this was John Cena that all these fucking teams were emulating, they'd be sending him to these fucking games. Daniel Bryan's comeback has been nothing short of a fucking failure. Steve Austin came back from a neck injury, won the title. Triple H came back from a torn quadricep, won the title. Cena came back from a torn tricep, won the Rumble, but didn't win the title. Edge came back from a torn ACL, won the Rumble, didn't win the title. Jim Corderas, you can stick that up your ass. I fought with you all night on Twitter because you don't fucking get it. You're a yes man for Vince. You think you know it all because you're there. I got news for you. Being a yes man for Vince McMahon gets you nowhere. It makes you dumber as a person to be a yes man for another guy who, whether anyone wants to admit it, just like this guy here said, as much as I hate Phil Brooks, because I think he's a prick as a person, he is right. Vince McMahon is out of touch. If WCW were still around, who would be fighting Brock Lesnar? Frank, now you have the floor. You tell me.
I agree with you. I feel WWE takes Daniel Bryan for granted. They figure he'll be popular regardless. And,
which he will, because he's just that fucking good.
Yeah.
Here's to you, Mr. Danielson.
He is what he is in their eyes, and he's not going to be the face of the company.
See, I don't think the thing is that people want him to be the face of the... See, this whole thing... Excuse me. This whole thing about being the face of the WWE, that shit needs to go from where I sit as a viewer. Why should I, as a viewer, give a fuck who the face of your brand is? Because I can tell you right now, when I was 8 years old, I didn't give a fuck if The Undertaker was the face of the WWF. You know what I gave a fuck about? If The Undertaker was the WWF champion. That's what I gave a fuck about. When I watched WCW, I didn't give a fuck who the franchise of WCW was. You know what I gave a fuck about? If Sting was holding the WCW gold. That's all I gave a fuck about. When I watched ECW, did I give a shit who their poster boy was? No. I wanted to see Taz choke motherfuckers out and hold the ECW championship until the company closed. The whole fucking focus should be about that. And I'm pointing to the championship, Frank. It should be all about that. That's what you should be concerned.
Whoever holds the belt is the face of the company.
But the whole point of the matter is, you should only give it. You should. Blah. Wow, I'm losing my fucking mind. Whatever I didn't lose, I'm starting to lose it now. I don't give a shit who the face of the company is. And nobody really should. It shouldn't even be a focus. Being the face of the company shouldn't be a focus. And this whole talk about, because I heard Triple H's comments on the podcast with Austin, luckily there's this wonderful thing called YouTube. Yeah, so fuck your network. And take your $9.99 and stick it up your asses. You ain't getting no money from me until you give me what I want. And if that makes me a crybaby, I don't really give a shit. Customers always right in business. The second you start thinking that you know more than your customers, that makes you a dick that doesn't know good business. Especially when you are struggling to get 3s and 4s in ratings when you used to get 8s and 9s on a regular fucking basis. And just think about this for a second, Frank. The WWF audience at their hottest, that was half of the wrestling audience. Think about that.
Yeah, I agree.
And the funny thing is, you don't even have a sliver of that watching these days. But this whole talk about the guy needs to go too. Why can't you have a rotation of guys? Why can't I have Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, and Roman Reigns? I'll even throw your golden boy in there. And I liked Roman Reigns. Yeah, I'm pointing to him right now. Got his autograph on my wall of fame. What I don't like is that he's being force-fed. We don't want another John Cena. We want the first Roman Reigns. Having him come out there and saying suffering succotash, and having him go out in interviews and say, oh, the people that hate me hate their own lives. Fuck you, man. You're Leaki. That's what you are. You're the next John Cena. He'll have colorful t-shirts in a matter of 6 months. I promise you, Frank. He will have colorful t-shirts in about 6 months. And let me tell you something. Now we get into Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Brock could kill anyone on the WWE roster. That is not the argument here. The argument here is the guy that should beat him should be the most over guy in the company. Whether it's Bryan, whether it's fucking Dean Ambrose, whether it's Ryback, I wouldn't give a fuck if Cesaro was the most over guy in the company. If he was the most over guy in the company and they weren't pushing him, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Vince made this statement once to Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. He said, I would much rather have half a house cheering the person I want than a whole house cheering the one guy I don't want. He made that statement.
I read that. Well, he better pray that match doesn't bomb.
Oh, I got news for you. You remember Goldberg versus Lesnar at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah.
20, what was that, 11 years ago? Get ready for a repeat performance because I got news for you. Brock Lesnar's best matches, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, whether you motherfuckers like it or not, Cena versus Rock 2 sucked in comparison to CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. Regardless of who won, I didn't give a shit. The match was incredible. I could watch that match over and over and over again and love it. And love it.
Let me tell you, if that match bombs, that's going to be that's going to be a disaster for
I got news for you. They were chanting "You can't wrestle" at Roman tonight in New Jersey. What do you think it's going to be like when it's fuck? And know what's funny? Jimmy Corderas was telling me tonight that it was just another smart town. Excuse me. And this is when I used the famous line that got me a couple of favorites on Twitter. What was that freaking statement that I used? Revisionist history does not work on the informed. Vince McMahon used to gauge his audience in front of those quote-unquote smart cities. Now that they don't go for the people he wants, they're labeled and ostracized, just like me and you are for complaining.
Right. Well, from what I've seen, Reigns can have a good match when he's in there with somebody really, really good.
Well, just watch Fastlane. Do you honestly think that if Roman Reigns was in there with the Big Show, he would have had a match like that?
No.
Do you think if he was in there with? Do you think if he was in there with? Okay, let me ask you this: do you think if he was in there with John Cena, he could have had that kind of match?
Yes, because John Cena, he can.
All right, that's a fair point. I disagree. I think the reason that match was so good was because of one man, Daniel Bryan. He made that fucking match look good. He took a guy who hasn't had a great match yet, gave him his greatest match of his career.
He made him look good.
Yeah. And where does Daniel Bryan have to go from here? Intercontinental mediocrity.
That's the whole point of this is the Monday after Raw when Reigns shows up with the belt, and can he have a great match with anybody? Can he carry the match? And I don't think right now he can.
No. And the guy obviously can't cut a fucking promo to save his life.
Oh boy.
You know what's funny? The people that stopped shitting on Reigns go on that one promo that he did in the studio. You know how many times they probably did takes on that? Take a guess. How many times they probably did takes? Come on. The guy is not The Rock. And you saw that. And the funny thing is,
to save him, they might have to turn him heel.
Listen, you want to save Roman Reigns? You want to really salvage his career? You turn him heel at WrestleMania. Have him beat fucking Rollins, but have Paul Heyman and the Authority be with him. The only way that you're going to be able to save Roman Reigns is if you camouflage his negatives. Paul Heyman was a master of that at ECW.
The scenario everybody talks about
let's be honest about something. Let's be honest about something else. Would Brock Lesnar have the same impact that he has without Paul Heyman?
Yeah, but not
Would he mean as much? Would he mean as much?
Entertaining.
That's what I'm saying. From an entertainment standpoint, would he have the same impact without Paul Heyman?
No, of course not.
Because it was falling flat. Because it was falling flat when John Laurinaitis was his fucking mouthpiece, and it was horrible.
Well, Laurinaitis will kill anybody.
You're right. Terrible. You're right. But the point I'm trying to make is Paul Heyman's perfect for fucking Roman Reigns. Let Paul do all the talk. Let Roman Reigns do the Brock Lesnar thing. Standing there dominant with the fucking belt. Badass motherfucker. With Paul Heyman saying, I'm the one behind the one who beat the one in 21 and won. It's fucking perfect.
Yeah, Heyman always says he wants the next guy to...
Paul Heyman... Here's something else. Seth Rollins could become a hero out of this whole thing. You know how that happens? Let me ask you a question. What does Triple H always do? He always turns on his protégés.
Right.
Have him and Rollins have some dissension because Rollins wants the match with Orton and Triple H doesn't want it to happen. After Triple H gets beat by Sting, he's in a bad fucking mood. He gets his shit twisted. Hopefully Stephanie's getting beat by AJ that night. I would love to see that match happen because the promos alone would sell me on that match. Rollins mouths off to the Authority. The second Rollins goes to cash in, the Authority's music hits. Rollins is distracted. He catches a spear. Heyman's telling Reigns, cover him, cover him. Triple H is saying, ring the bell. Ring it. Rollins gets screwed out of the Money in the Bank. They do a double turn. You want to talk about swerving the audience? Give them a reason. Don't make the same mistake you made with Cena. The fans already hate Roman Reigns for the most part. Give them a reason to hate him.
Well, if Reigns turns heel, Rollins has to turn face.
That's what I'm saying. You do a double turn. I think that would be the smartest business move for them to make because Rollins, I think the money in Rollins is him as a babyface. That Phoenix Splash could be his finish. And plus, Reigns has got to get rid of the Shield garb. He's got to get rid of the Shield look. He's got to get rid of the Shield entrance. He's the only one out of all three that hasn't evolved. No pun intended. But that's what I think of him. I like Reigns. I think he's cool. I think he's a badass. But I think he needs to evolve, and I think he still needs work.
I agree.
All right. That's the end of this segment. Frank and I will be back for our next one. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.